Today, I'm excited to speak to Vanessa Leck about the fallacy of hard work. Let me briefly introduce her before I bring her on. Vanessa Leck is the creator of Hello Vanessa Media and founder of the Carolina Addiction and Anger Management PLLC. Vanessa writes nonfiction books based upon life experience, work experience, knowledge, skills, abilities, talents, etc. She's earned various credentials in various fields. However, the primary focus has been in the behavioral healthcare field or the healthcare industry. Vanessa loves to share helpful information with everyone and their mother because she believes that this information will make the world a better place. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you so much for joining me today and talking about the fallacy of hard work. I'm so excited to talk to you about this.
Thanks for having me. It's funny hearing you say that way, especially the way like America's always like, that's like the norm. Work hard, you become a millionaire, right?
Be successful. Yes. So I briefly shared a little bit about your background, but can you tell me a little bit more about who you are and what got you started with the Hello Vanessa Media?
That's a loaded question. I always have a hard time with those kinds of questions. It's like a job interview kind of question. So basically, a little bit about me. I've worked hard my whole life and I'm not a millionaire. So I guess we could start with that. I'm the walking, talking, breathing, living case study of the hard work fallacy / myth. Basically back in 2012, I started doing, I don't even know how, it just happened. I started doing like video editing and stuff. Actually taught myself how to do that because I was actually handling a healthcare marketing campaign in a position I was paid to do for a large organization. And that's how I got into that actually. And then I have always been passionate about multimedia since then, but it's been really spotty, my showing up online, if you will, because I was busy spending way too many years working way too hard to earn a bunch of boring credentials that nobody really cares about except for the people that have them, people that regulate them. And so that really kept me from being consistent, but I've hit some professional milestones more recently. Thank you, Jesus. And I have been able to, spend more time focusing on other things that are of interest to me. And during the pandemic, I kind of formalized it a little bit more and called it Hello Vanessa Media. And that's just basically it's an umbrella. It's like everything I do, writing books, podcasts, videos, writing articles, just things I'm probably forgetting about is underneath that because I'm really creative and it needs to be more separate from, my clinical work, which is really a totally different thing. And this is more creative and lets me kind of branch out into things that are of interest to me that aren't necessarily, clinical.
Right. And what caught my eye about you is I saw an interview or not an interview. I saw a live that you did on LinkedIn about the fallacy of hard work. And it was all about, so recently the popular life coach and entrepreneur, Rachel Hollis, received major backlash because she went on Instagram to talk about how she works harder than most people. And that's why she's so successful and can afford the help that she gets with house cleaning and whatever else. And the internet lost their minds, right? So, that's how I was introduced to you because I really like what you had to say about her claims that just hard work gets you the kind of lifestyle that Rachel Hollis has. And many of us work hard, but we never can reach that level of fame or success. But what about her comments made you create that video and share your thoughts?
So it's not that video specifically that motivated me. It's the fact that there's a whole history and a backstory there. So basically, for many, many years now, she's been marketing her books and stuff. She has events that she's done historically before COVID, where it was in person, and very large events, and they've been very mainstreamed, but they are also target marketed to certain niche audiences, which I fall into. Some of those audiences were Christians. I'm Christian, non-denominational. So I fall into that target market. So I'd heard about her from peers because of that she was marketing to and had bought in some of them to her messaging and products and whatnot. Also the military community, specifically military spouses, she heavily marketed to, in my opinion. She showed up at a USO, I do believe, speaking event, which kind of blew my mind. I saw that. I still can't even believe I saw it, but like I saw that. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I saw the clips of it. She made a comment about military spouses, thanking them for spreading the word about one of her big popular books, Girl, whatever it was called. I forget, Girl something. It's always got girl in it. Anyways, And I really never bought in ever. You know, I was at a Barnes and Nobles. I share a story all the time, passing through because I'm always traveling, it seems like. And I picked up one of her best-selling books and I started reading it. And I thought it was a lot of words and not a lot of substance. That was my initial impression, and it hasn't changed since. Okay. And I just ignored her for years, really successfully. And then from there, I remember the divorce announcement happened in the middle of COVID, you know, like last year. And I just remember thinking it just really, like, that's when it really hit me and stuff, just kind of thinking back about her messaging and, you know, really started doing a deep dive on this person. So let's be honest, I had some extra time on my hands. It was COVID, things were shut down, even in my remote location. And I read her Girl Stop Apologizing, Girl Wash Your Face, and even a big excerpt, the free one from her latest book. I forget the name of it. And, you know, I really did a lot of research on her. And that's what led to the video that you saw with her latest controversy. So it wasn't that specific video. One of the things I said in the video, and it's very true, is like, if you really have studied this person, which I don't think that most people really analyze this person, in my opinion, that video shouldn't have been a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to me at all. I think the only thing that surprises me about her specifically is that she does have so many resources to hire advisors, to really think carefully about what's being released, to really strategize about the messaging. But I just don't really see that being done. And that's what kind of surprised me a bit about that. But I feel like the attitude's been on full display the whole time. When I read the books, you know, when I really researched her background and stuff like that. And so, you know, and as far as her hard work myth / fallacy, you know, my choice to mention that proposed idea that she had in her video was directly due to my analysis of her and the fact of these different advantages that she had, like marrying a Disney executive, you know, and these different things that she's had and challenges that she hasn't had. And ironically, the military community that she markets directly to have challenges that this person cannot even like fathom. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, there are so many challenges. Like, for example, military spouses, and I've been in this situation myself, are likely to end up becoming full-time caretakers of their spouse due to injury. In some cases, like some of these burn pit victims I've been researching right now that are exposed to toxic fumes from burn pits from Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, they are in a situation where they're taking care of terminally ill spouses as a full-time caretaker. And that's a situation which would directly limit your ability to be, you know, career focused and really even have the potential for that level of success. And those are things that really weren't calculated into her talking points in that video or her messaging in general historically.
Well, you know, I don't care that Rachel Hollis has a house cleaner or a chef or whatever type of help that she has. But what really bothered me is her claim of wanting to be unrelatable, and how many of the amazing women that she named, like Malala Yousafzai, are unrelatable as well. But I feel like Malala is very relatable because she was an ordinary little girl that did an amazing, extraordinary thing, which was to stand up to terrorists who try to take her life. So it makes me feel like I could also do something like that. You know, Malala was an ordinary lady and she did it, and she's amazing, and she's dedicated her life to contributing. At the root, I feel like that's what people were reacting to, and that she had help, and she could afford it, but it wasn't that. It's just that she said, I never want to be relatable, and that these amazing women are also unrelatable. But at the same time, she has a brand that's all about being relatable, right?
I
And
was
I think
just
that's what
thinking
people.
that. I was just thinking that as you're saying this. Yes, you're correct. She does have a brand. I mean, that's really how she has been able to be successful. In fact, one of the things that in my research of her historically that seems to catapult some of her success, not all, but some of it, was that she shared a photo a while ago, a number of years ago, where she was on the beach in a bikini, a two-piece, and she was showing her stomach that had stretch marks on it from having children. And that got so much publicity, positive publicity for her, and articles written about it, and seemed to really catapult her a great deal. And the whole reason for that was relatability.
Right. I mean, when you're marketing yourself as being relatable and then say, sis, what part of my life is relatable to you? Because I work harder than anybody else. I've worked really hard to afford this lifestyle. but not to mention that I married a very successful man that worked for Disney, and we've both written successful books about our relationship and then our divorce, and we've made a lot of money that way. And so I think one thing that I started seeing was a lot of people are like, your house cleaner works really hard. She wakes up at 4 a.m. to be able to clean your house, and she doesn't have the kind of success that you have. And so that's what I really wanted to talk about, and that there is this belief that a lot of people are shamed into, well, you're not rich because you're not working hard enough.
I understand. And you were talking about the women in the comments of her video. You know, that's like a whole nother issue, which I haven't even decided not to even touch that. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't the first time she stepped in it, because, you know, with the politics and everything going on in America, you know, she posted some things on Instagram last year, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. Because I stopped paying attention to her for a number of months till she hit my radar again with this whole controversy. And that also had gotten a lot of negativity. But this just really exploded. And I think it's just the timing. I really think that these kinds of social media influencers, once they reach a certain level of following like she has, you know, I just kind of think that we're at a time now where the messaging that previously did well may not be doing so well anymore moving forward in the future, because things have shifted a lot. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't want to make this necessarily about Rachel Hollis or bashing her and her success, because it's not just her. It's just like the whole idea of this conversation is there are a lot of people that believe that, and they make a ton of money off of people that want that level of success by promising them all you have to do is work hard. And like you said, there are some people that work really hard, like the military families that are caring for their spouses that are wounded and possibly have PTSD, and then trying to be a mom and trying to juggle a whole difficult lifestyle. What are some things that you've like experienced or you want to talk about as far as what is that fallacy and how can we get around it?
Well, it's a whole societal cultural thing. And I too am not making it all about Rachel Hollis, but she represents a group of social media influencers of that culture of today, you know, on Instagram, where life is perfect and everything looks so perfect. And people always feel, not always, but many people feel that their life is less than because they're looking at these perfected images that are posted online, thinking that's the way life should be, when that's not the way life really is for most people, if anyone, even people of means. As far as the way you get around the myth/fallacy of hard work, I mean, I started being conditioned and groomed with that belief system in grade school. I went to public schools, bad public schools, lots of them. And I remember then, and I see even now, the myth being perpetuated, and even seeing posters on the walls of basically like these things. It was basically communicating that, you know, if you follow the yellow brick road to success, if you get, you know, good grades and a degree and work hard, then you're going to have this fancy car and this big house and all these things. And that was constantly being fed to me, you know, and you know, my peers and stuff like that. And I really bought into it. And so and then I went through life and a lot of things changed anyways. But the way to change that is it has to be a cultural society shift. It needs to be stopped communicated in grade school, these falsehoods, these lies, essentially. And the truth needs to be communicated. And that was never communicated. Even now it's not being, really, in large part. And this whole idea of, there was a lack of focus on entrepreneurship and the fact that, you know, there's options and opportunities there and how to go about that potentially. And a focus on go get a job, basically go get a degree and then go get a job and go work for somebody else. And that's still the focus I see today. For the most part, I see that constantly. And that is a problem in and of itself. It's never this messaging of, you can create a company and you can create jobs and you can create opportunities for other people, and how great that could be. And so the messaging in our culture, our society, and our schools has to shift. And I don't see that happening, because it's not going to be just like a one person, one thing situation at all. That everything has to shift. The way we teach kids has to shift, you know, and I don't see that happening fast enough.
Well, on the one hand, not everybody wants to be a millionaire, right? Not everybody defines success as being financially well off and super rich. I mean, some people just want financial freedom from debt. They want maybe a house that's paid for or the ability to go on a vacation. But on the other hand, like you said, I do believe that success can come from hard work and consistency and persistence and sometimes following some of the rules, but there are a lot of obstacles in the way of some people than others. It's not a level playing field where we all start off at the start line and then we're all going to go if we run hard enough, right? Some of us, depending on if we're women, we have to run twice as fast. If we're a person of color, we have to maybe run 3 times as fast just to be able to get ahead of somebody that has that grew up in a privileged environment, that probably is the right race and culture and religion. And so there are obstacles in front of some of us. I love, there's this meme, there's men and women starting a race, and the men have a clear path in front of them and the women have laundry, childcare, all these other things that they have to go through first before they can even start the race. That's what I really wanted to address in that. And what I heard from you talking about that in your video is that it's not just me working really hard. Like you said, you've been working really hard for years and you don't have that level of fame or success. But on the other hand, who says that that's what you want or that's the right lifestyle to aspire to?
I was just about to say, I don't want that level of fame ever, though, honestly, because it comes with so much scrutiny and that freaks me out, that whole thing. But the money certainly would be nice. Absolutely. I'll take the cash. No doubt about it. Yeah. So, I mean, the reason I've even accomplished what I've accomplished in my life is due to consistency and persistence. There's definitely something to be said for that. And I have a lot of conservative views and things like that. So this is certainly not me, trying to encourage people to like not try or something like that. But some examples I could give is, I went to 5 high schools in 4 years in 2 different states, and they were all public schools and they all sucked. I realized later on they really sucked. I knew that some sucked, but I didn't know how bad until after I graduated and got out. I graduated with honors. And I took advanced placement classes and honors whenever they were available in the schools, which wasn't all the time in every subject. And, I ended up going to a school that was hard to get into. And I had a partial scholarship, but not a full one because of just circumstances beyond my control, basically. And once I got to that school, I was surrounded by people that had gone to prep schools, elite private prep schools. And I realized that the education I had gotten was not the education they had gotten. They were uniquely prepared in a way that I was not for this, I realized. And we had radically different educational experiences, despite the fact that I was an honor student and took advantage of every opportunity I had in front of me. And so that was really eye-opening. And these kids, they were kids, literally were teenagers. They were getting high school graduation presents that they took with them to college of Hummers. I mean, literally, they were driving, Beamers, like the fanciest vehicles. I remember one of my roommates complaining that she had like a 1 or 2 year old BMW instead of a brand new one, like her parents. And she was very upset by that. She was serious. I remember the same person, having like a $500 comforter, which I still don't own one of those. I don't know what the deal was with that. And, that was like seconds to her. And I remember she ended up paying a $10,000 entry fee to get into a sorority. And that was just the cover. That didn't count all the other fees to participate in activities or whatever. And these women in the sorority were like, they were very like looking down on other people. There's no doubt, because I met some of these people. And it was like a country club for teenagers. I mean, this is like next level. And so, definitely people are not being afforded the same opportunities, even if they're working hard. And that is, I think, the clearest example I can give off the top of my head, because like we were at the same starting line there, so to speak, but yet really some of us had some real big advantages that others didn't have. And I was in culture shock, from that. And I ended up actually leaving the school because I just couldn't take anymore. I left after like 1 semester. And I did finish my degrees and stuff like that, but I just did it somewhere else. And I ended up really, and that's why I got online and stuff and more comfortable in this environment pre-COVID all those years ago, is because I found I excelled in online settings, because people couldn't see me because I realized I was facing discrimination in school settings as well. And it leveled out the playing field for me when they couldn't see what I looked like or know anything about my background. And they were just grading my papers and stuff based on that and that alone. My grades actually increased, I realized. And when I had the flexibility to set my own schedule because I was working and had obligations these other kids didn't have, I excelled in that environment. And so I've been doing online school and online everything for years because that helped eliminate barriers for me.
That makes such a difference. And research has consistently shown that, like I used to work in the schools, and when I found out that an African American child and a Caucasian child, both of them can have the same IQ, but starting in kindergarten or preschool, but by the time they're in middle school, the IQ of a Caucasian child increases while the African American child decreases. And it has nothing to do with their innate abilities. It has to do with enrichment in their environment. So the Caucasian family might have opportunities for tutoring and books and educational material that the African American child might not have. And so it's not necessarily an innate ability. It's just so many obstacles are set up for that child, the African American child, or the person of color child that they don't have, like you said, they don't have the same educational level. It's been proven that a lot of the schools in low-income neighborhoods are not getting the funding, and they don't have the resources that other well-to-do neighborhood schools have. And then on top of that, let's even talk about the free internship that a lot of companies require right after school. If you can't afford to have a free internship because you have to work and pay your bills, you're not going to have the same opportunities as somebody that can afford to work for free or even pay to get that experience where somebody else might not have.
I agree.
So there's a lot to this, and I don't want to simplify it. I just thought that having that conversation about just that, Rachel, like I said, I didn't want to make this about Rachel Hollis, but that video really touched a nerve on the internet. And I feel like this is a much deeper issue, but I just wanted to have a conversation, and that not everybody that works hard is successful, and not everybody that is successful works hard.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree with you. I do. Yeah, consistency and persistence for me has paid off in my life. Had I not been exceptionally consistent and persistent in problem solving and overcoming challenges, I definitely wouldn't have made it to this point. I remember by the time I was in my 20s, I realized that what you just said is true, about exactly what you just said, basically. Yeah, I mean, consistency and persistence, but also I remember realizing many years ago, I forget how old I was, that if I was the only variable in my success, meaning like achieving various goals I had set for myself, then I would be like way more successful. But the reality is there's all these other variables and people making decisions that will directly impact your life and the outcome of your life and the outcome of your career and the outcome of all these different things. You know what I mean? Like, it's just reality. It's like if you don't, like in our world, there's clinical supervision, right? So it's like if you have a clinical supervisor that really likes you and really supports you and really is behind you, then you're going to be able to accomplish the goal, the professional milestone faster than someone, who doesn't. Or if you get a promotion or don't get a promotion, I mean, that can radically affect and change your life in the way you're treated on the job, for example, compared to somebody else. I mean, in your decision to stay or quit because of that treatment, that can and does radically affect people's life, because it's all like this domino effect is what I've seen and experienced directly. It's like it's seemingly one small thing can happen, like what I just described, and it can ripple across the rest of your future, essentially. Because it's like, okay, well, I had to quit that job, so I didn't get that experience and I didn't make that money. And so I didn't have that opportunity, or that delay of that achieving that professional milestone kept me from having this opportunity, and then on and on and on, where other people were able to proceed ahead of you faster and have the opportunities which are fleeting.
Exactly. And I was just even thinking about coming out of school with a ton of school loan debt. That can be debilitating as well. It determines what kind of job you accept. It determines where do you live. It determines a lot of decisions moving forward after you graduate from college if you get a chance to even go to college.
Yeah, and my path was far from perfect. I have like a lot of credentials now that look impressive or whatever to a lot of people, but the reality is like getting there was not a straight line. Like I went to I don't know how many schools before I finished up my bachelor's degree, and I was just like strategizing and like rolling credits into like other degree programs to try to figure out how to get it faster so I could move on to the next level. You know what I mean? Like it was not easy. And like I don't have student loan debt, but it's not because I'm privileged. It's because of I did strategize that and I made a lot of sacrifices for that. And what I'm talking about specifically is like basically like I was accepted into more than one elite school. And I ended up not going to the second one I was accepted into at all, because if I would have, it would have cost me $100,000 approximately compared to the middle of nowhere state school that I went to, which is no name recognition of any kind. I got the exact same degree for 10% of the cost. I was using the GI Bill. A lot of people don't realize it doesn't cover much because they made cuts to it, and schools choose not to match like they could with the Yellow Ribbon program, especially like these elite schools, a lot of them. And so like I would have been burdened with all that cost, all these loans, many of them high interest. I'd be paying on that still right this second. And so I made a conscious sacrifice to basically go to the no-name school so I could save 90% and not have the debt. You know what I mean? Like that's one of the things I did. I went to schools that were not elite, and that's where I graduated from so I could save money. And then also I was in the military, which is in and of itself its own sacrifice. And so, I was able to get a little bit of money for school there. But like I said, it doesn't cover everything. Military veterans cannot go to most elite schools without going into severe debt because it's not going to pay for it.
It just reminds me of that movie on Netflix. That's the college admission scandal that so many people were getting in trouble for basically bribing college admissions officers to get their kids in. But what it came out of that is a lot of the schools are no better than, like you said, the middle of the road school with a no name. They have just as a good of a program, a curriculum, and you can get just as good of a job. But because of the prestige and the name association to those schools, a lot of people are paying thousands and thousands of dollars, if not millions, to make sure they graduate from there because of that name recognition. So I think you made the right decision.
I would agree to some extent. I obviously don't have enough exposure to all the elite schools, no, for sure. But it's funny you mentioned that because I did a video on that very topic that you mentioned more recently after the dust settled on it, after I watched I watched several of the college admission scandal shows, TV shows, and movies about it, the most recent one being on Netflix. And the school, which I'm not going to name, I've never named the name of what the school is, that I got into more recently that was in elite school was on the college admissions scandal list. It was one of the prominent ones that was featured constantly, and like I didn't go because I couldn't afford it. And I just like in my video about that I was talking about because I find it so comical. I mean, like I know it's a serious topic, but I find it comical, this part of it, because it's like, okay, it's like, wait, like let me get this straight. Like I went to these horrible public schools, don't have any advantages, got in, no one had to bribe me, but I couldn't afford to go, even though I got in honest. But you guys had all the advantages, like way better education foundation than me, and you still couldn't get in without having to pay somebody. Like, I mean, that just blows my mind, honestly. It's like, it just wasn't meant to be, okay? Like, I just find that really amusing. But yeah, the school that I got into, I think that it honestly probably could have provided me with a better education, if I'm being honest with you, foundationally speaking. I do think so, but I just really couldn't afford it. I mean, I just would have been so burdened with debt for probably the rest of my life had I taken the loans, and the high interest loans, and I just could not do it. And I actually know someone that graduated from the same program. And what's really ironic is that we ended up working at the same place in an identical position, literally for the same crappy pay. And and we had ended up with the same credentials and stuff. So, there you have it. It all worked out.
That's basically the reality of a lot of people. They have to make that decision. Do I want to go to this name school and pay all that money to get that degree, or do I want to do something that's more financially sound for me and my family? And so they might choose the lesser known school and get just as good a degree, like you said. So knowing what you know now about everything, with your experience and everything that's coming out, what advice would you give yourself about work and success?
I would have stayed in the state that I grew up in and not left. That's for sure. And I wouldn't have left because I wasn't getting good academic advisement. I now realize all these years later because there's some opportunities I wasn't aware of. So I would have gone straight to just trade school, and gotten an occupation very quickly through that. I could have done that in the health professions. And then I probably, knowing what I know now about the internet and stuff, would have just delayed altogether any kind of formalized post-secondary education until the internet caught up and it was more accessible to me. So I wouldn't have to deal with the barriers and the discrimination and the, condescension because I don't have loads of cash and stuff like that. And I would have basically gone, like, I have a real estate license now, it's inactive on purpose. I would have gotten that right away and stuff. I would have done the stuff that was easier to obtain and more accessible because I can see like what my potential is now and what I've been good at and stuff. And so I would have just done that way sooner. And I think that would have been a faster path to success instead of basically following this conventional advice that actually doesn't really work. That's what I would have done. And so I would have just stayed off the yellow brick road to success that was being sold to me and just gone a totally, side door approach to it. And I know I would have been really much better off had I done that, but I didn't. I went to college and I did all the, I got the degrees, I left my state, it just took me in a very different direction. And, I'm in my 30s, and when people look at me from the outside looking in, they probably think, oh, she's really successful and stuff. But, people have no idea, the backstory on all this.
And I'm glad you mentioned trade school because I do recommend that for some of my patients because college isn't for everybody. And there are a lot of other ways of getting the certificates or whatever is required to jump a certain hoop. And it doesn't have to be a college degree necessarily. You can go for 9 months, get a certificate, and then go become a healthcare worker. Or there are so many opportunities. Plumbers and electricians make so much money.
Yes, plumbers, electricians, and in some areas, like one of the states I was just in, they are in such short supply. I mean, they're making six figures. They're making over $100,000 a year if they work full time and if they basically work for themselves and stuff like that. There's different variables, of course. But yeah, I mean, they're making more than people with college degrees in many cases. I've seen this firsthand.
I know pool cleaners that make really good money because they have their own business. Like you said, the plumbers and electricians, but garbage men make a lot of money. There are so many other professions that you can go into that are not necessarily traditional, nor the part. I mean, I used to work in the prisons and the correctional officers made more money than I did.
Really?
As an intern. And so, and all they had was a GED, but they were the correctional officer. So there are a lot of different ways to get to the route of success, and doesn't have to be the traditional 4 years of high school, 4 years of college, get a master's, get a doctorate. And that's what I really wanted to emphasize today.
No, I 100% agree with you. But I was not educated on any of those options and stuff. And there was just, there's just a lot of things that are just beyond my control too back then as well. But, one of them was the fact I didn't get good advice. I didn't get good information. And of course, hindsight's always 2020, And so I'm still luckier, in life than, some of my peers, like some of the people that I served in the military with would be a perfect example. Life is so much of the roll of the dice, I feel like, so many different things.
But like you said, when you have the right information and the right tools, you can definitely make a difference. And that's about encouraging people to seek out other options, alternatives. High school, if high school is really difficult and it's difficult for you to make it through, get your GED, go to a trade school, start your own business. There's so many different ways. Surround yourself with people that know what they're doing and to guide you.
Well, you know what's cool too? And I'm so jealous. I feel so old because I'm just like back in my day, like I find myself thinking and saying that kind of stuff a lot these days, but I'm so jealous because now they have I've been seeing it advertised a lot, like free online public high school, which looks like way better quality than what I got in person. And let me tell you, if something like that would have been available back in my day, I would have been all over it. like no other, because grade school for me was not a fun experience, having to go there and deal with like all the drama, the teacher drama, the student drama, the crowded schools I was in, just trying to get through the hall. It was so packed. I would have loved to have had an online option, because it seems like people are getting more personalized assistance that way as well. And if it's, I mean, why not? I just think that's amazing.
Well, I used to have really bad social anxiety when I was in school, and an online option would have been a dream come true for me. I would have loved it. So where can people find you and connect with you?
HelloVanessaMedia.com/info is the best way to learn more about me and the work that I do. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for being here. This was a really good discussion.